In this video, I want to have a look at playing turnarounds. I'm sure that piece of music sounded quite familiar to you, and what it was an example of a turnaround. Now, turnarounds are musical phrases that are used, unsurprisingly, to turn the music around, and they're very common in all types of music, and especially in blues music where you hear it used quite extensively. So what is a turnaround? Well, that's what I want to have a look at in this video. What I want to do is go through the basics of what turnarounds are and give you some examples. So what is a turnaround? Well, a turnaround's a musical phrase that's there to turn the music back around. I know that may sound vague, but I'll try to explain it further. In general, music's repetitive, and it'll have sections that repeat throughout the song. And what you want to do is, when you repeat these sections, you want the music to flow back round, and that's really where a turnaround comes in. So if you take a 12-bar blues, for example, it's basically 12 bars of music that are basically just repeating throughout the song. So when it reaches the end of those 12 bars, you want it to have a nice segue, a nice flow back to the start, and that's what turnarounds are. They come at the end of musical sections to help it go back to the start and sound like it all goes together. So usually what you'll find a turnaround is, it's usually 1 or 2 bars long, and it's written in such a way that it leads the music back to the start and makes it all sound, makes it all sound like it flows together. Like I said, it's extensively used in blues music, and the reason for that is because blues music is quite repetitive. Like I said, a standard 12-bar blues is just the same 12-bar section repeating. So obviously turnarounds are going to be used quite a lot in this type of music. So in general, that's what a turnaround is. Just a few notes or chords that may last maybe 1, 2 or longer bars long, and it's there to flow the music back to the start. Again, that may sound quite vague, so what I want to do now is look at some of the common features of a standard turnaround. So what are some of the common features you're likely to find in turnarounds? Well, realistically, turnarounds can be anything. And it can be any notes or chords, as long as it provides a nice flow and segue round back to the start of the music. But what you tend to find, and this is especially common in blues music, is there are some generally common features in these turnarounds, and that's what I want to have a look at just now. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is the length of them. What they tend to be is 1 or 2 bars long. You tend to not see turnarounds longer than that. You can do, but generally they tend to be 1 or 2 bars long. And I think the reason for that is that it's basically a section at the end that's used to flow the music back. So if you have the main body of music, you don't want this just being one, a large section at being a turnaround. You only want a small bit at the end to flow it back. So what you tend to find is that turnarounds tend to last 1 or 2 bars long. I mean, if I give the example I used at the start, this is 2 bars long, and this would be commonly used in, say, a 12-bar blues played in E. And that would be 2 of the 12 bars in that 12-bar sequence would be used as the turnaround. And again, that has a nice balance to it. So you still have like 10 bars of the main section, then 2 bars of turnaround taking it back to the start. Another common feature you tend to find when seeing turnarounds in blues music is that it tends to have a descending element and then work up to an ascending element. So again, to use this example, what you get is a 7th chord descending, and then the notes ascend back up to a B7th chord. So I'll play it slower, but you have this descending like that, and that pulls the music down like that, and then at the very end it goes, and that builds it back up like that, and it leaves the music hanging like it wants more, like it wants to go somewhere. And that's perfect for a turnaround. It leaves this tension in the music like it needs to go somewhere and it hasn't resolved. And so that's a perfect way of bringing it back to the start. But what you do tend to find in a lot of blues turnarounds is this descending element as the music comes down, and then it just jumps up just at the end and it ascends just at the end of the turnaround. So this descending, ascending element is quite common. It's used to build tension. Another element you're likely to see in it is the use of seventh chords. And again, that example I gave used descending seventh chords here. And then what it does is it ends on a B7th. Like so. And what seventh chords do is, the sound of them is that it's unresolved. Any seventh chord leaves the listener hanging, wanting more. So the use of seventh chords at the end of turnarounds is really, really common because it needs something else after it. You usually won't see songs finishing on a seventh chord. It leaves the listener wanting the music to go somewhere. And in this case, it's going right round back to the start. So they're two very common elements you'll see. You'll see this descending, ascending structure and the use of seventh chords, and that's very common in blues music. Now, how the turnaround's done, it can be done using chords, or it can be done using single notes, or like I just showed you, a combination of both. So again, to use that example, we don't have to pick the chords, we could just strum them, we could just do like so, or we could have like a single note run. Instead of using chords, we could have again. So it doesn't have to be chords, it can be single notes as well. But often you'll find it will have a chord progression in it. So these are some of the common elements you're likely to see in blues turnarounds. Like I said, there's no hard or fast rules for it. But if you're writing your own and you incorporate some of these elements, you're likely to get a pleasant sounding turnaround that helps bring the listener back to the start of that section. Now what I want to do is just run through a few brief examples, and I'll put the tabs on screen to give you a listen to some, common sounding turnarounds. The first example I want to use is the one I've been playing throughout this video. It's played in the key of E, and what it uses is descending seventh. So it starts on an E7 here, and then goes down to an E flat seventh, then a D7th, then plays an E chord here before doing the ascending section up to a B7th. Like that, and that B7 creates the tension to turn it back around. So I'll just quickly play through it again and put the tab on screen. Okay, in this next example, I don't want to use chords, but I want to use a single note run for the turnaround. Now, again, it'll be in the key of E, and it'll finish on a B7th chord, creating that tension to turn the music back around to the start. The run will be a descending run, again using that descending feature, and then move up to a B7th chord. So very much a standard turnaround style. So I'll let you hear this. Okay, I want to give one more example of turnaround. Again, this will be in the key of E, and the turnaround will again finish on a B7th to create that tension. Again, it'll use a descending chord sequence for the start. The difference with this one is that after it's done the descending chord sequence, what it'll do is it'll jump up in the music again and then play a C7th chord and then drop down to a B7th chord. So it'll basically, the music will have a descending chord sequence like that, jump up and then descend again, and it still has a nice effect. So it doesn't have the ascension in it slightly different. It jumps up but ultimately comes down but still ends up in the same place. I'll let you hear it and see what you think. Okay, so that one was slightly different again, but they all shared a lot of common features, such as a descending section, an ascending section, and they were all ending on a 7th chord. So those were just a few examples of turnarounds, and I think you can understand when you hear them what their purpose is and how they function for looping the music back round to the start. So I hope you've enjoyed watching this video and it's given you a wee bit of insight into turnarounds. In future videos I will go into more depth at the turnarounds and look at other examples, but thanks for watching.